So I'm going to introduce Christy and Trista, if I get that right. So Christy Allen has worked for UTA for 10 plus years. Most of the time has been spent in the Coordinated Mobility Department helping manage the FTA 5310 community projects with community partners, conducting local coordinated council, and writing specialized human service transportation plans. Trista Lawrence, she has 25 years experience in industry. She was previously the 5310 grant compliance officer and assisted in sub-reception with meeting the funding needs of the grant awards and maintaining compliance with FTA requirements. Yay, thanks ladies.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. So I know that we did ours different. We don't have a PowerPoint and I only have handouts. So
My kind of gal.
share if there's not enough. I'm sorry. I did not know how many to make. If you really want one of my B handouts, I want you to know too, this is really going the extra mile for me to insert little B's, okay? So just know I was thinking of you. I was like, okay, how can I jazz this up? And I found the cute little B's. So anyway, these things are just included in what I'm sort of going to go over. I will be referring to my notes, and I will be up front. So the original class for this, anyway, something happened, and Trista and I got recruited to do some stress management things with all of you. Most of the information I got for this class I had done already with my staff. So it was grant oriented, but I think we can substitute in operators very easily or whatever your job might be, wherever it is you are working in the transportation industry. So this was put out by, actually it's a study. All these people with letters after their names did this. So that being said, they were worried about burnout in the grant industry, and that's what we do. Our department, we manage grant funds. If you know anything about grants, it's never ending, right? But I think everybody's job feels a little bit like that, right? We all feel like, you operate the vehicle today, the vehicle's still there tomorrow, still going to be operating the vehicle. So I think it can cover a lot of things. So I just want you to ask yourself these things, right? Ask these to yourself in your mind. Are you feeling any of these things? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling irritable, restless, sleepless, or tense? So those could be signs of burnout, right? Which is not what we want. And like I say, I think in my mind, because have been an operator, but I view operators for me, that would be a highly stressful job. I don't even like driving myself to work. I'm, yelling under my breath, having stress. Right? In fact, I finally bought one of those, so I can drive in the carpool lane when it's just me. Because and it's really not even for the speed as much as I can just sit in this lane and drive home, without freaking out, right? So operators, I don't know how you do it. People are coming in and out of traffic. People are stopping in front of you. People won't let you in the traffic, whatever it is. You're trying to help people on. A lot of you deal with persons that are aging or with disabilities. That adds a whole nother element of stress. They have time frames. Some of you might get stranded. Lots of stress, right? So it could be easy to get burnout. Okay, but there's other things to contribute too. So some of the things they say, burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It has 3 dimensions. Feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion. So it's not just your age. Your job can be tertiary. Sometimes I like to think I'm getting old, right? Maybe your job's doing that. And like I say, the reason I did this and why I have this information, I get concerned about this for my own staff. Okay, so you get the depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feeling of negativism and cynicism about your job. Anybody ever felt cynical about your job? Okay, see? No, we would not be cynical ever. And then also reduced professional efficacy, which means with that term efficacy, I even had to look it up. So what do we mean when we say that? That means you don't feel like you have much power or control over maybe what's going on or getting the desired effect you would like with your job, right? And that's not a good feeling to have either. And so those things can all add to this overwhelming and stress. So again, one of the things I identified for the grant people, but I think goes for everybody, this is a quote, one way, we'll say operators as a profession leads to burnout is because it's never over. It's never enough, right? Like, again, you can leave. One nice thing, hopefully, is happening, and we'll get into this, and after you're done operating for the day, hopefully you can just leave, right? Hopefully your job isn't following you home. I think a lot of times administratively, or maybe a manager, or if you're a supervisor, your job can follow you home, right? Because if something happens and you're away, who's in charge? They call you, right? So if you're in those kind of positions, it really can be hard to do that. They have, I don't know, any of you guys watch Seinfeld? Oh, so there's a funny one where Newman, and somebody's asking about stuff at work, and why do sometimes these postal workers freak out? And he's like, because the mail never stops. It just keeps coming and coming. And I mean, and I think we can relate to that in some sense, right? So that being said, sorry for my Seinfeld break, but anyway. So we want to come up with some solutions to help you not feel burnout. So on this handout you had, there's I, we, and they.
Can you get a couple more?
I have no more. So share, and if you want one, give me your email before you leave, because I'll send it to you. It'll still have the bees on it. So, okay, I'll send it to you. Yeah, sorry, I just didn't have any idea, so I thought, well, I think I did 20, which was clearly not enough, so my apologies. That being said, so I care, not as in your eyeball, as in yourself. So self-care, you need to give the gift of self-time, have outside interests. You want to worry and prioritize your own, particularly your emotional and mental health, because that's where you're getting affected, right? And it's they have a triad, they say, of 3 sort of things you want to focus on for your own self-health, which is sleep, nutrition, and exercise. So now it doesn't have to be, don't go run a marathon. Don't have to do that, okay? So don't get intimidated. But I think lots of us, right? And I would think this is another hard thing. These are things I think about when I think, God, if I was an operator, like I couldn't drink a drink all day. I would be so worried about when can I go to the restroom next? I would dehydrate myself. Like I wouldn't make it through the day, right? And then how do you exercise? Like you're driving a lot in a seat. You have schedule. You don't have, right? So you're going to have to find some time, if that's your job, to really be thoughtful and intentional. If you do have a pause in your day, and maybe get out of your vehicle and just walk next to the just walk up and down the sidewalk for 5 minutes straight. Just put a little song on you like, and just get out of that zone for a minute. There's a thing called stress cycle. I think Trista's going to address this with some effective. Trista's part's going to be way more fun because it's on hands. I'm trying to make mine fun, but I don't know how fun it is. But anyway, Trista's doing more hands-on stuff, and she'll tell you about that. But there's a thing called the stress cycle, and it's basically when you start to get stressed, your body creates a cycle. And it says it moves oxygen and fuel into your muscles. And the stress cycle has to be completed to avoid buildup of stress in the body, because if you don't, then it can lead to physical problems. And it says, so after you start into the stress cycle, you have to tell your body you're safe. And so there's ways to do this. Again, Trista's going to help us with some of those, but and that might be stop the vehicle when you have a break and just get out and walk for 5 minutes to your favorite song or whatever that might be, okay? Might be intentional breathing, which Trista's going to go over. But you got to complete the stress cycle so it's not taking toll on your body, okay? So we all know that's real, right? You have stroke, you have heart attack. Those are stress-related, not all the time, but can be very stress-related reactions in your, physically. Okay, so be proactive, be intentional. Here's one that I find hard. Again, this could be hard for managers and supervisors if you're in here, or if you work in operations but you don't operate a vehicle, which is working within the hours, not taking your work home. Our grants department, we're really guilty of that. I, as a manager, try not to be guilty of that. I'm trying to be very intentional. I hope that my employees realize when I send an email on Friday, I don't expect them to answer that email on Friday. I try to be really good about not texting them or shooting them a message on Teams when it's their weekend. All my staff, except for myself, works 4/10s, so they have Fridays off. I try to be really intentionally respectful of that because they work long hours. They work long days. Our work is stressful, and I don't want to go beyond that. Now, like I say, I'm hopeful as operators, that's what most of you are, you can leave work, right? Hopefully, I mean, right? You're not picking up people after hours, I guess, unless you get called in. Now, this is a worry for me, though, for a lot of you, because I know this happens on our work. Because, yes, I'm with the Utah Transit Authority, right? And so I try to be aware all the time of what goes on in my organization. These are all my coworkers. I really enjoy the people I work with on every level in our organization. I have a lot of respect for operators and for what they do for the public every day. And I know that we've been short on operators. People are being asked to work more and more overtime, right? And that, in your mind, you can think, oh, well, that's great. I get time and a half or whatever you get. But how big a toll is that taking on you if you feel like, oh, well, I'm working 7 days a week, like I haven't had a day off in 2 weeks. That's not healthy. You can't stay to that level. So be mindful. I encourage you to be mindful about that and don't overwork yourselves. You know, like I say, money's great, but you have your own mental and emotional health to think about too. Okay, so gift of time. Use your time intentionally. Have outside interests. So in the little box, you've got the handout. Anyway, in the I part, complete that stress cycle. Again, Trista's going to help us with that. Set little goals. For myself, I'm a checklist person. I learned that from my mother, and now I'm a checklist person, right? Hope my kids don't do that because now they're all they do everything electronic. And I'm trying to get away. I have an addiction to legal pads. So I have really tried to cut that addiction to legal pads and not use it, but I'm a list person nonetheless. And so, but it does, for me mentally, it helps to if I have a little list, even if it's just for today, when I can cross those things off, that relieves stress. Okay, I got something done. Because does it ever feel like some days, did I get anything done I came in this office to do today? Because a lot of times it's easy, some crisis crops up, right? Somebody's stranded somewhere, or FTA needs something it's due by tomorrow. I don't know, but there's a lot of things that can really come up that you're just where did my day go? So when you have a little list or even 2 things on a sticky note or anything, I think it helps you mentally and emotionally that way. Give yourself the gift of time and use it intentionally. Incorporate breaks if you can in your day. Try to separate yourself from the vehicle, the desk, the garage, whatever it is you're doing in transportation. This is a hard one for me too, and I do have some, but develop outside interests. Do you have outside interests, right? And it's in a way, I'm really envious because I'm unfortunately getting more up to that upper ages, and the fact that I know more and more people retiring, right? And these people who have a plan. Oh yeah, I build birdhouses. I'm out in my shed, I'm doing my thing. Or, oh yeah, I'm quilting. I have a friend that just retired. She's this quilter. She's got all the, yeah, I have nothing. I fish occasionally with my husband. We take some hikes, okay? I have nothing. So I really need to get something. But I encourage you to I am reading books more. That I am doing. So at least I'm trying to, But think about what could be an outside interest if you don't have one at the moment. Okay, so now we're going into we care. Okay, so here's a place I think where operators and grant people can relate, because in this, from the grant perspective, they talked about grant people being very siloed. We're not really part of the bigger team. Well, I would think, and correct me if I'm wrong, for operators, once you leave, you're out, right? You're your own boss. Now that can be very appealing, right? You have your own office, your vehicle's your office. I'm the king of my kingdom for the day. That can be really empowering, but it can also feel very distancing. You get back at the end of the day, And if somebody's not around to tell you, oh yeah, the kitchen caught on fire, and then we had this thing, like, you don't know, right? Because you're just siloed out in your vehicle all day. Well, grants people can be a bit that way too, because it's so unique what grants people do. I think that's why they think it can be a siloed position. But we're worrying about what all of you do today, mostly. That being said, so we care. One of the things I really liked, and one of the things I like to do, and I hope I do it, I've done it for years, which is called mentoring. And in my job I had before I ever came to UTA, I have mentored a lot of people. I enjoy mentoring. Mentoring can be /training, right? I think when you train people, that's a part of mentoring. So it doesn't have to be somebody younger than you. It could be same age. It could be somebody older. It doesn't matter. If you're helping somebody with something, giving them knowledge and helping them along their way, for me, that's something really satisfying. I call them kids. That's probably not appropriate because I mentored a lot of younger people. And now as they are getting older, right, and establishing their careers and stuff, it's fun for me to watch them and see, like, wow, I helped them get on that little path, and look how successful they are. That's awesome, you know. So I think that's something we can do. And I know at UTA, we use lots of our trainers are former operators, right? So maybe that's something to think about. Maybe you're at a small organization, but you help with the training. I think that's a way to feel included, right, in your organization and have that sense of we. So that's one thing I really agreed with. They sort of talk about in here too, about for like grant people, and we've been doing this at UTA, we've changed things a lot, how we do the grant department. And we're trying to educate other departments about what we do, because strangely enough, though we're siloed, we touch a lot of things in our organization. We touch accounts payable. We touch the asset list, which is a whole other thing. We touch this terrible thing called JDE. We touch, so we touch a lot. We touch fleet management. We touch maintenance. We just have our fingers in a lot of things that eventually people find out, but it's usually a big surprise. What? I was supposed to do like a what report thing? What? You know, like, so we're trying to be better about going out in the organization, letting people know what we do. Now, maybe in smaller organizations, you guys are pretty involved in your group. I know that, is Sissy still in here? Sissy? She left. Well, Sissy out in Tooele, I know this because I've seen him. She keeps her operators really like, they're family, they're doing their thing, they all help each other out. Like, those are great when you can feel that we. And so for the we things, it's like finding your peeps, right? Having social interactions. They suggest some things, but I think for our operators, some of the things I thought about was like, because sometimes they're just in a break room, right? We have like hundreds of operators. And so I think sometimes it can be hard for them to get to know each other, but I thought, you know, you could start like a Netflix group. Hey, what series is everybody watching? So when we're hanging out in here, we can chit chat like at the water cooler kind of thing, right? Or again, it could be a book club, but it doesn't have to be a book club. I feel like that's always the default, right? Maybe it's a hobby. Maybe you put together something everybody could a little project that's like a volunteer project that you donate to someplace. But just think of some things that, you know, that help you feel more involved with your co-workers as you're coming in and out of break rooms and coming in and out of the garage to get vehicles and things like that, that might just help you feel more together. So social interactions, professionally, they talk about professional development, mentoring, educating others about what you do. And that's like, I think it's really good. We were just talking in the last class about doing when you're interviewing people and doing what they call a practical interview, which is put a potential person you might hire in the vehicle with you. But I think, like for me, again, working at UTA, it really helps, and they have really beefed up our new employee stuff, which is great, because it's really good for me, as I am an employee, to go out and be in the system, right? And see what goes on, how people get places, what operators have to do, what train hosts have to do, what a bus operator does, where all of our system goes. It's almost a living, breathing organism, right? It's massive. It has a different personality in Utah County as opposed to Ogden, as opposed to Salt Lake County. So I think it is good if you can involve employees that maybe they never leave their desk. Maybe you're at a small organization. Tell them, hey, you know what? One afternoon, come with me when I go pick up a couple of our clients. and they can see what it is to make sure somebody's secured in your vehicle, to see how much it means to those customers if you're dealing with people with disabilities or aging adults, that this is what our work is and this is how we're helping the community. I think it would be useful and maybe helpful to you as operators if you have people in your organization that really don't understand what you do. Take them out for an afternoon. Take them out one day and show them, like, this is what we do, because I think what you do is awesome. So let's see. So those were all the we's. Oh, and then just healthy boundaries. Again, try not to, like, if you're like, I'm only working 40 hours this week, I don't want any overtime, then don't take the overtime. You know, like, set the boundary with yourself. You know, those things can be tempting. If you want it, that's great. But if you are just too stressed or whatever, set your boundaries. You're totally allowed. Okay, the next one is a little harder in my mind because it's from a higher up. It's called they care. So hopefully your organizations care about you. I hope that they do. It can feel sometimes like an organization doesn't, right? Sometimes with a really large organization, like UTA sometimes, it can feel a little disjointed. But I would say overall, I think as that organization, UTA tries to really do some things for us as employees. Though I think on a smaller level, if you're in a nonprofit or something like that, I think it's really important, right, to be transparent and cohesive and really appreciate what each other does, because you don't have as many resources as this big conglomerate. And so you have to sort of watch out for each other. So hopefully you all have buy-in from your organizations on what they call they care. So the they care talks a lot about, like I say, you have to have you have to be able to feel like you can go talk to your management. And I hope that you all feel that way with your organization. But some of the things they put on the they care. Recognize workplace conditions that lead to burnout. And maybe if you can't change the whole organization, maybe you can at least look at the things that are causing you burnout. Maybe you can discuss that with your supervisor or your manager. And maybe they're willing to sort of take that cause on and say, hey, you know what, I can see that we're having a problem. Let's make sure we're taking care of everybody. Which is create open and transparent communication, right? So hopefully you have that. And if you are a supervisor or a manager or something of that nature, I'm hopeful that you're being open and transparent with the people that you work with on your team. I think that, that's really important. So this talks about flexibility work schedule, which you might not have. You may, but you may not. That would be nice if everybody could have that. Develop a culture of meaningful appreciation that is not linked, this says funding amount, but how about not linked to your on time or those kind of things. I know at UTA that's a big thing with especially our fixed route, right? Whoa, what's that on time number? What's that on time number? You're making sure you're getting it. And we want to be efficient, right? Sure, we want to be on time. But that shouldn't be the only measurement that makes you a good employee. You're a good employee regardless if you can meet every on time, right? So there should be other things, not just this set measurement, that we let employees know, hey, we appreciate you. All your efforts are appreciated. Okay, embrace diversity, which hopefully you all do, right? We have, particularly in the kind of transportation and specialized transportation, right? We have a lot of diversity in the sense that we have all kinds of abilities, right? It's a myriad. And every customer is different. Every client is different. And every person we work with is different. So being open-minded and just being willing to work with each other, respect each other, those are big deals. Set clear, realistic goals, expectations, like timelines. That's, here's a good one though, which is an interesting one on this. It says eliminate martyrdom as a job qualification. Okay? You shouldn't have to be a martyr to like, oh great, you're doing such a good job. That should not be what you have to do, okay? So if that's happening, please try to see what you can do to remedy that. Okay, and again, establishing these policies with no emails on weekends, no meetings, those kinds of things. Like I say, I work a half day on Fridays, even though my staff is off. I do that for my boss so that she has a minute to talk to me. So that a lot of times I do, like I say, I will answer an email or respond. But I don't expect my employees who have that day off to reply. Oops, sorry, I'm speaking. To reply, because that's their day off. Wait till Monday. And sometimes they reply and they go, oh, just wait till Monday. Like I was just sending it because I had to get it off my plate, but you don't have to reply till Monday. So anyway, okay, there's another, I'm almost done. We're doing a half hour. So half hour of me, half hour of fun over with Trista. I know. I'm actually excited because I've never done all the stuff Trista does. She does a lot of fun, she does a lot of cool things for self-health. So she'll go into that. But one big thing too that I also went over with my staff when I was doing this is building, like having resilience, right? And resilience is people have ability to adapt well over time to life-changing or stressful situations. And so anytime, right, I feel like, I don't know about you guys, I feel like if everything's going pretty great at work, then something's falling apart over here in my personal life. And if everything's going great in my personal life, then something's falling apart over here in my work, right? Like nothing's ever 100% just floating through and having a great time. And so either way, you're getting some kind of stressor, right? So if I'm having problems at home, that could come over here and cause me problems at work because I'm stressed about this thing over here and vice versa. If I'm bagging a bunch of baggage from my work over home, well, then my husband's not happy. You know, like, where am I? What are you doing? Why are you answering emails at 8 o'clock at night? Sorry, you know, like, yeah. So anyway, that being said, it says, resilience is a process of adapting well in the face of adversity, tragedy, or other significant sources of stress. Resilience will help empower an individual and foster growth when you're going through difficult times. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you would be immune to problems. It just means that you get yourself in a better place to cope with those problems, okay? And this takes, what they say, takes time and intentionality to try to do this. So that being said, they have some resilience things broken down, and they have it into four groups. It takes time. Let's see. Okay, so you want to build connections, you want to foster your wellness, you want to find purpose, and you want to embrace healthy thoughts. So building connections. So this could be things like maybe it's doing more with your family, maybe more with extended family, right? Maybe you haven't seen your sister or your aunt or your uncle or something, a cousin for a while. So maybe it's building that up. Maybe it's a religious organization, you're with it. You know, maybe I need to be more involved so I can feel more connected. Maybe it's cultural. You know, at UTA, the Pacific Island group of individuals that work for us have a whole club because they can all identify and it's a good place for them to connect. You could do something like that. You could do a hobby, right? A hobby that involves other people, or go take a quilting class, or take, the wood carving class, or whatever. So you can have more things that are building connections. Because, right, I think it's really easy, I know for myself, when you're feeling stressed or you're having problems, I want to close in like a turtle. I just want to pull my little head in and go, leave me alone over here with my problem that I'm just stewing in over here. I tend to be that way. But that's not healthy. And I know it's not healthy, but I do it anyway because, right, my feelings are raw. I'm upset. So try to remember to connect. There's people there to help you out. Fostering wellness. So this means, again, taking care of yourself. Get a little movement. Eat a vegetable. That's to me. I'm not the greatest. So my husband's awesome. He'll eat fruit all day long, all this stuff, and I'm the one I have to be really mindful about our vegetable and fruit group, okay? But it's good for me. I gotta do that. So meditation. And you don't have to meditate, if you don't, you can just zone out with again, put your earbuds in and listen to some songs you like or something. Listen to a podcast, whatever. Just something that gets you out of the turtle and stewingness, and this is, again, all so much directed at myself because I tend to do these things. Finding purpose. So again, this sort of talks about, again, just get a little checklist. Okay, and if you can only handle today getting one thing done, then just do that one thing. And then the rest of the day watching Netflix, whatever. But if there's only one thing you can get done today, Just write down that one thing and just get that one thing done. And then maybe tomorrow you'll feel good enough to get 2 things done. Okay? But you know, you have to keep on this. And I know this is a hard thing for me. I don't know about you guys. If I'm down, it's really easy to not have healthy thoughts, right? It's really easy to get down, gloom and doom, everything's my fault, or I can't fix this thing, or I have no control over this thing. Can be an anxiety-driven person. So I internalize a lot of anxiety and try to act like I don't have any anxiety. But anyway, so you really need to work, and this is again to me, work on trying to have healthy thoughts of really reflect on positive things that happened. Maybe you didn't get the thing that you wanted right now, but other good things are happening. Something else good is happening in your life. Visualize, it talks about visualizing what you want rather than worrying about the unknown. I tend to worry about the unknown. That's a hard one for me. So I need to stop doing that, be more mindful about thinking about things that are positive and that it's still a great day, it's going to be fine. And then they just have these 6 areas. If you have the handout, it's the ones here at the bottom, the 6 dimensions of well-being. So they're just emotional, physical, financial, environmental, intellectual, and social. And then on this, they had some suggestions, but environmental, that seems like a weird one, right? But they're talking about things like, hey, you could clean off your desk. Or, hey, mow your lawn. Make things look nice. Because I think what they're trying to sort of say, if you feel like your surroundings are okay, it probably helps you. It would help me mentally and emotionally to feel a little bit better. The financial one is interesting too, right? Because it just mentions it as an area that you could take action in. And I know, finances can be really stressful, right? I mean, I don't know of a time in your life when you're younger, you have student debt, you have a mortgage, you have all this, and then your kids get more expensive as they get older, right? Well, then they leave the home, and then you're like, crap, do I have even a nickel in an account somewhere to retire someday? It's a whole, it's like you're sitting here. So it's interesting that they would put that, because I've been trying to do more mindful things so that I don't have that fear again of okay, what can I do just a little bit at a time so that I don't have that scare in front of me. So these are just a lot of things. My biggest thing for all of this is just, I'm hopeful, whatever you do, my objective for my team and for my work environment, we already have a stressful job. You have a stressful job. And I don't want to have my team feel more stressed because of what my behavior might be or what expectations or things that they feel. Sure, we have deadlines, right? We all have a job description and we have to meet those things, but I really try to not to want to add to that. And in fact, try to make our work environment the best that I can, so people feel safe, people feel good, people want to come to work, and it's an okay and a safe place. I hope you all have that. I know it's difficult. You deal with the public. Sometimes people aren't very nice, and I think there's a lot of self-care you need to do to make sure, don't take one criticism from somebody and take it personally. Hopefully most of you realize that from your jobs. You got to know you're doing good things for your community. Transportation is hard, and you serve people who need transportation the most. And so I just want you to know there's people that see that, and I see that, and I really appreciate what you do. And now I'm going to turn you over to Trista. Oh, you do. Okay. All right. Hopefully that's good. Okay. So Sissy told you a little bit about my qualifications for being here at URSTA as far as transportation goes. You might be wondering, what on earth does this woman know about stress and managing stress? I have a side hustle. I have for 30 years of a healing practice. So massage therapy, foot zoning, sound baths, all sorts of different things. That's kind of my hobby, like Christy talked about, that gives me balance. So I have a lot of years of experience with that as well. Okay, so I want to start out by asking, how many of you know where you hold your stress in your bodies? Okay, a few of you. Okay, we're going to do a quick little activity. Need your hands free. Going to need both hands. I want you to put your right hand on your chest, your left hand on your stomach, and I'm just going to have you breathe in. We're going to do this 4 times, and I want you to pay attention to whether your right hand or your left hand moves the most. Okay, so we'll start with the first breath. Let it go. Again. Okay, breathe in. Last time. Okay, how many of you, your right hand on your chest moved the most? Okay, so about half. Okay, that's actually a little better than I expected. So, the reason I had you do that is if your hand on your chest is moving first, you tend to be a chest breather versus a stomach breather. So you breathe more shallow if you're breathing through your chest than you do through your abdomen, okay? Statistically, about 80% of the population breathes incorrectly. You might ask why I'm focusing on breath. It's free, so it's not going to add stress to anybody feeling like they have to financially come up with something, right? You don't have to go pay for a massage. You don't have to go buy lots of essential oils, which you might smell in the background also I have going. It's not going to cost anybody a penny, okay? So that's why I chose to focus a little bit on how we breathe and how we can use that to manage our stress in our day. Christy mentioned the stress cycle. And when our bodies don't complete that stress cycle, the stress settles in our muscles and in the fascia. And then within about 6 months, we usually develop some sort of physical pain. Ulcer, heart attack, high blood pressure, all of those things that are associated with high levels of stress. And so it's really important that we make sure we follow the stress cycle and complete it. How many of you are aware of your breathing throughout the day? I mean, our brains just kind of make us do it, right? We don't really think about it. So I noticed for myself, like when I start to get stressed, frustrated, or angry, I actually hold my breath and stop breathing. So I'm perpetuating that stress cycle because I'm not allowing that to fully complete, right? So I have started intentional or conscious breathing, I think, as Christy mentioned earlier. So I try to be really aware of my breathing throughout the day, breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, in through the nose, out through the nose. We as a society, a little bit of history, have become mouth breathers, which is not our normal way to breathe. And if we are mouth breathers, it will change the shape of our jaw, our face. And now that we are mammals that we have soft foods, we don't have to really chew and work our jaw. All of that affects the way that we breathe. Let's see. Okay. Breathing, and we're going to do a form of breathing in a little bit for a few minutes that you can do. I do it at night to help me de-stress from the day. It's designed to help you be able to fall asleep faster and rest deeper. So we'll do that in a little bit. But we also have what's called the vagus nerve, which is our body's information superhighway. It regulates all of the things we don't think about, our blood pressure, breathing, our pulse, all of those things. And some of you may have heard recently things like, oh, you should stimulate the vagus nerve or vagus nerve exercises. It's kind of a fad or hip thing that people are talking about right now. But it's a very, very important aspect for us to think about. And again, these are all things that aren't going to cost you a penny to do, but by stimulating the vagus nerve, it helps reset that stress cycle, it helps your body relax. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up where they're at for just a moment. You might have to move a few things out of your way. And
we, hopefully this is loud enough, are going to dance. Just move that body for a minute. Lisa, Monet, you guys in the back, I know you can dance. Come on. Sunshine in my pocket. We should just start playing music in the office and dancing down the hallways, right? Trying to see how long we've been going. Okay, that's good. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Okay, so how is everybody feeling right now, right? People were smiling, laughing, giggling, maybe feeling a little uncomfortable. I'm extremely uncomfortable dancing in front of a room full of strangers, but I already feel a little bit lighter. I already feel, okay, I can go back to my desk now and refocus on what I was doing, right? So those of you that work at UTA, if you see me dancing down the hallway, that's what I'm doing. Some interesting facts about breathing. The average person breathes in the equivalent of 13 pints of air every minute and takes between 17 and 21,000 breaths a day, which is about 12 breaths per minute. That's actually kind of fast breathing. If you're able to slow that down, I mentioned the intentional breathing, to about 6 or 7 breaths per minute, you're going to prolong your life, and it's going to help with that stress cycle. This is just kind of a testament to that intentional breathing. Most people can hold their breath for 1 to 2 minutes. I can barely hold mine for 30 seconds, but anybody that can hold it longer than that, awesome. But in 2010, there was a man named Stig Svensson. He was from Denmark, and he held his breath during a free dive for 22 minutes because he practiced that intentional breathing, and he learned how to control his body and what he did. To me, that is amazing. 22 minutes. I mean, that man, if he was stuck in a pool, is going to be okay for a bit, right? Psychologists have found that having a breathing practice is effective in fighting anxiety, depression, and stress. And there is physiological evidence that indicates that even having just a single breathing practice will significantly reduce your blood pressure. So lots of health benefits to making sure we're breathing properly as well. I already mentioned that mouth breathing changes our face structure, and researchers have found significant differences in the facial developments of children that breathe through their nose versus children that breathe through their mouth. So just an interesting fact. Our emotions, I mentioned earlier, when I'm feeling an emotion, I stop breathing. So our emotions can change the way that we breathe. Research has also shown that our breathing patterns can influence the emotions that we experience as well. Overall, as a species, the less breath we have per minute, the longer we will live. And they have found that they've done that in studies with mice versus elephants to determine that they've lived longer by that. Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Okay, yeah. Any physiological issues are correlated or made worse by dysfunctional breathing. Wow, this is... Okay, so the definition of poor breathing is short, shallow, and high in the chest, whereas optimal breathing includes longer, deeper breaths that occur low in the abdomen. When you breathe from your chest, your breaths are typically shorter and shallow because you're only cleaning out the air from the upper part of the lungs. And when you do those deep breaths, you're getting rid of all of that stuck, stagnant air that's lower in the lungs. Okay. Some of the physical benefits of breathing correctly: it alkalizes our blood pH, has an anti-inflammatory effect. It elevates our moods, balances blood pressure. It will help us be in that deep REM sleep for longer, so we get that deep, restful, healing sleep, right? That's when our bodies typically heal, when we're asleep. It reduces PTSD and feelings of trauma. It gives us a stronger respiratory function, a stronger and better immune system. It releases the stress hormones from our body, it relaxes our nervous system, and gives us more energy. So I want to go back and talk a little more about different things that can stimulate the vagus nerve. So we got up and we danced, walking, meditation. And a lot of people, when they hear the word meditation, think, oh, I have to find an hour in my day. And meditation can be literally 30 seconds. If that's what you have, just clear your mind, take some deep breaths, say a positive affirmation. Meditation, can look a lot of different ways. So don't get hung up on it having to be this big, huge event in your day that causes you more stress that you're trying to avoid, right? Let's see. There are, so controlled breathing is the first way that we can stimulate the vagus nerve and is the most effective. Movement, singing, humming, music is a really big one. So humming, chanting, if some of you do yoga, I know a lot of different yoga practices will have some of those as part of what they do. Meditation and touching. So an interesting statistic, and this is probably 20 years old is when I was told this statistic, so it may have changed by now. But in order for us as human beings to just exist, we need a minimum of 4 hugs a day for at least 30 seconds. How many of you get that in your life, do you think? Good. Amazing, because most of society does not. For us to not thrive, but be a little bit more than just existing, we need 8-ish hugs a day that last at least 30 seconds. For us to thrive, we need 12 30-second hugs a day. Just to thrive. I don't know very many, I don't get that in my life unless I intentionally make sure I'm like hugging my husband, hugging my kids, whoever it might be. So, if you're not getting that physical touch, maybe start incorporating that. Again, it's not going to cost you a dime, right? It's something that can help us physically. Sorry, I know Lydia and I know right where she just went in her head. You're right. But typically we have people in our lives, right, that we can hug, hold hands, something, so that we're getting that physical touch. Okay, so when we are stressed, you guys have all probably heard the phrase fight or flight and rest and digest, right? So fight or flight is the stress cycle. Our bodies are panicking, freaking out. That's when we need to make sure we complete that stress cycle. They found recently, I hope I get this story right, there was a gentleman who, a car had started on fire and he went to reach in to pull somebody out of the car and the car exploded and it threw him back. But he didn't get to complete what his body was trying to do in fight or flight, and so it created physical trauma in his body from not completing that cycle. Our bodies are amazing, but they can also remember everything. So we want to get ourselves out of that fight or flight cycle as quickly as we can and get back into that rest and digest, which is the point of the vagus nerve exercises. That helps bring your body back. Like the dancing, right? We were all immediately a little bit lighter, laughing, having fun, giggling. So those are things that we want to do. We want to get back out of the fight or flight as quickly as we can. So we are going to do a little exercise. So this is a little deck we actually keep on our conference table at UTA. It's called the Work Wellness Deck. And you can just pull out different little cards. There's 3 different categories: refresh, flow, and connect. So depending on what you want to do, this one says, we won't do this one because it will take a little too long, but it's take 10 to 20 minutes to meditate. And we're really fortunate in our work environment. If we're feeling stressed, we can go pull one of these cards and do what it says, and it's going to be accepted and be like, oh, it's dealing with stress, managing things. We've got different coloring, like we have adult coloring pages on our table. We've got lots of different things. Savor a beverage. So just go get a drink from the vending machine if you have access to one, or you brought one to work. Just different things like that. Create an affirmation. Again, something that's fairly simple and easy to do. I could be better at that, but let's see. Okay, so we are going to do, let's see. Yeah, we'll do a couple of different ways to breathe. So this one says alternate nostril breathing. Okay, so I'm just going to read you the card. We all have those days when we feel overwhelmed and our energy is low. Alternate nostril breathing has the power to refocus and re-energize you. So we're all going to do this. Start by sitting comfortably. Press your thumb on the outside of one nostril and inhale deeply through the open nostril. At the peak of your inhalation, release your thumb and press the ring finger of the same hand on the outside of your other nostril. And exhale through the open nostril. So you're breathing in through one, out through the other. Okay? And then you continue that pattern of breathing in through one nostril and out through the other for 1 to 2 minutes. And then you switch sides. So you're holding one side. I think Fiona's got it right here. Thumb like this, and then you do this. Thumb, exhale, and then you would switch. Thumb, exhale. Okay? Just a couple of minutes. Fairly easy to do. Head, neck, and shoulder stretches. If a lot of you happen to work at a desk or at a computer, there are programs you can usually download to remind you to stand up and stretch or stand up and walk for a couple of minutes every 45 minutes to an hour, just to break up the monotony of the day. So different things we can do. We'll pull one more card and then we're going to do the 4, it's called 4-7-8 breathing, but it's breathing that will help you get de-stressed and relax at night. Create your vision. Okay, so we've read one card from each of the categories. Expressing yourself through visual creation is an exercise in self-discovery that can help you connect to and acknowledge your personal and professional goals. Using imagery to visualize your future self sends a powerful message to the brain, generating an impulse to move in the direction of your desired achievements. Imagine your life in 5 years. What would you like to have achieved? What does your personal and professional life feel like in that moment? And then it talks about a vision board type of thing. Gather magazines, pictures, different things. Create what that vision is to keep you motivated, to help you remember maybe why you're doing what you're doing, or what matters to you. To have those things to pursue. Okay, so we're going to now, we should be good. We're going to do, it's called the 4-7-8 breath. So we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. You hold it for 7. And then you exhale for 8. And this is the breathing cycle that I do at night. I get into bed, get settled, and this is what helps me kind of clear my mind, declutter all of the stress of the day, and helps me get into a deeper and better sleep. It used to take me about 2 hours to fall asleep at night. It now takes me about an hour, which is still a long time, but it's getting there, right? It's an improvement. And it's taken me, I've been doing this for probably 3 months now that I've been doing this breathing cycle at night. So I feel like cutting off an hour is pretty good in 3 months. Okay, so everybody just breathe in for 4. Try and be aware that you're breathe in through the abdomen instead of in through the chest. Hold it for 7. Exhale. Okay, so we'll do that again. Breathe in for 4. Notice if it's your stomach or your chest that's moving the most. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale. Breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can keep doing that. So everybody, we did that, what, 3, 4 times? Everybody kind of noticing, feeling a little bit more relaxed possibly? Okay. Anybody have anything they want to share or add, things maybe they do in life? Yes?
When I get stressed out, I like aromatherapy.
Aromatherapy is an excellent choice. Okay.
Tea tree oil.
Yeah, excellent oils. I'm diffusing a few oils that are specifically designed for anxiety and stress management here in the room today. But yeah, aromatherapy is an excellent, I actually diffuse oils at my desk. So I have another diffuser that I bring in. I keep some oils in my desk drawer, and I will just bring in scents that, I get headaches sometimes, so I bring in a scent that will help if I get a headache. But I bring in scents that either invoke positive memories or help me feel calm, so that if I'm really feeling stressed in that moment, I can do things to help kind of alleviate that. Anybody else have things? Yeah, Emily.
So before 7-8, I learned that if you rub your fingers together and think of a very good thought, then your brain will connect anytime you rub your fingers together to that thought. So as you're doing the 4-7-8, you just rub your fingers together while you're breathing, and it helps kind of eliminate whatever you're stressed about.
Thank you for sharing that. I had not heard that, so that's very cool. Anybody else have tips or techniques, things they do that, yeah?
Where's the vagus nerve?
The vagus nerve, okay, hopefully I can get this right. The vagus nerve, kind of, it's like a spider web. It just innervates throughout all sorts of the body. So it's got little fingers that just kind of branch off down the arms and down the legs. So when you are stimulating that vagus nerve, it's sending signals to all the different aspects of the body. Emily?
But it starts at the skull.
But yes, it does start.
All the way down through your groin and then down your
Runs through the whole body.
Yeah.
A lot of nerves, end like your fingertip or whatever, but the vagus nerve does innervate the entire body. Good question, though. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share, things they do to manage their stress? Lydia.
I walk down the hall clucking like a chicken.
Woohoo! I love it. Anyone else? Because we all have little things we do, right? Just being silly, bringing lightheartedness and laughter to the workplace.
Because even stuff other people into it too.
Mhm.
You can help your team.
Right.
If you're just all of a sudden show up dancing.
Right.
Barking orders.
I mean, I could imagine sitting at my desk, and if I heard Lydia clucking down the hall, I'd probably get up and go at least giggle with her for a minute, or maybe walk down the hall with her, right? Join in for fun.
Is it possible not to have stress?
In today's world, I think that's probably really hard for us to do.
It would be really stressful.
But it depends, and everybody handles things differently. Good for, no, I think that's fantastic. Really? Good for you. What's your secret, please? Maybe you should have taught the class.
Maybe I'm abnormal.
And everybody handles stress differently.
Stress in my life.
Good for you.
I just tell myself.
You just tell yourself you don't?
Not an option.
Good for you. Everybody handles stress differently. Your work environment, if it, like Christy was talking about, if things are going good at work, things might not be going so good at home and vice versa. And, we talk about managing stress in the work environment. This is really applicable to any aspect of our life. It doesn't really matter where the stress is coming from. But I think it's fantastic if you feel like you don't have stress.
We envy you.
I have a pretty high tolerance for stress, and it takes a lot to get me to that point. I'm trying to be more aware of things before I get to that stress point so that I can change something so that I don't get to that point where I want to shut down and become the turtle or hole up in my room for a week or whatever it might be. Just, climb into bed as soon as I'm done with my responsibilities for the day.
Can you substitute those hugs for something else? Harley Davidson?
Hey, if you love your Harley and it gives you that comfort,
Your pet.
pets probably would be okay. It's the aspect of that touch and that connection. So I know people who are huge animal lovers. I mean, they probably love their animals as much or more than their kids. They would literally do so much for that animal that it would, I think, hugging on that animal would give them. People get service animals. A lot of us probably deal with people with service animals, right? There's a reason it's called a service animal. It gives that person that peace, that security, that comfort that they need. So.
And even in aging, probably a number of you are aware of now they have the little robot dogs and cats they use a lot in the aging, AAAs in the aging because, somebody might be in a shared living facility or something like that where you really can't have pets and animals, but it's such a good replication, especially if they have dimensions and things, to just have that contact, the feel, because the animal purrs or the animal barks, it does little motions, it does things that they feel a real connection to that pet. So there's a lot for that emotional
The emotional connection.
So worst case, get a robot dog. I've been thinking about it.
I will.
I've been thinking about it.
But it's that connection. I think Christy covered it in one of her pieces too. It talked about creating that connection. So finding people who you can relate to, the book group or the walking group, whatever it might be, finding those connections. I know I rely heavily on people in my life that I have that connection to, that I know if I'm really stressed, I can just text them and say, hey, when are you free for lunch? I really need to see you. Or I really need to visit you. I've missed you, whatever it might be. So have those connections and those people who you can reach out to. But I would encourage everybody to incorporate just some sort of quick little breathing practice. Just pay attention to your breathing and to what you do when you're stressed. And then try and change that. Become a diaphragm breather if you can, those slow, deeper breaths. And we're going to dance our way out of the room.